In one small chain of Japanese islands, women routinely live past 90, many past 100, still gardening, still laughing, still independent. Across Japan, women make up nearly 9 in 10 of everyone who reaches 100 years old. Researchers still argue about why, but the women themselves were never following a plan. They simply lived a certain way every single day without ever calling it health. There are 6 things they do daily, and the strangest one is not a food and not an exercise, yet even scientists who doubt the research broadly agree it matters. The first thing isn't a vitamin and isn't a routine. It's the reason she opens her eyes before dawn. In the traditional Okinawan language, there was no word for retirement. A farmer simply kept farming, a weaver kept weaving, a cook kept cooking. The idea that one day you'd stop being useful wasn't part of the vocabulary, and the absence of that word shaped the pattern of a life. The researchers who have studied these islands for decades describe women who rise because the garden is waiting and because great-grandchildren will eat from it later that day. The purpose isn't grand. No mission statement hangs on her wall. It's ordinary. It's simply the next thing that needs doing, and needing to do it is what keeps the mind sharp and the body willing when the calendar says it should have slowed down long ago. The rain doesn't stop the garden from needing water, and the woman of 90 knows this without anyone reminding her. There's a man the researchers met, 102 years old, whose reason to rise was 2 prize bulls he visited every day. He didn't call it a mission. He didn't call it a legacy. He didn't post about it. He simply went because the animals needed him, and needing something outside yourself is its own kind of strength. That's Ikigai. You won't find it in a book you read and forget. It's a practice you live. The thing that pulls a person out of bed because something is waiting and that something doesn't care how old she is. It only cares that she comes. If you want to sit with the rest of what these women knew, then do subscribe and stay with me. This is where we slow down and look at how a good long life is really built. The second habit isn't something they do alone. It's something they promised each other as children. Imagine 5 children in a village, paired together by custom or by chance, making a promise that would last 90 years. That's a moai. A circle of friends who meet regularly across decades, sharing advice, gossip, vegetables from the garden, and money when one of them falls on hard times. Some of these circles have lasted more than 90 years. That isn't a weekend coffee club you cancel when it rains. That is infrastructure built from patience, from showing up, and from the quiet knowledge that someone is keeping track of whether you are well. The women chat over green tea, perhaps a small dessert, and the security of knowing someone is simply there. The circle shares the garden's vegetables. The movement happens in the garden that grows the food. And notice, the circle and the garden and the purpose are not 3 habits gathered into a list you check off before bed. They are one life, braided together, and each strand keeps the others from unraveling when the seasons change or the years get heavy. Researchers have reportedly noted that these islanders needed remarkably little medical care in old age. That's the result when social contact isn't a luxury you schedule into a calendar. It's the air you breathe, the table you sit at, and the hand that reaches across it. The third is a single phrase, spoken before every meal, and it may be the simplest practice on these islands. Hara hachibu. The words mean eat until you are about 8 parts full. You're not stuffed and you're not left hungry. You're simply aware that you've had enough. It's not a diet. It's not a count of anything you track on paper. It's a phrase spoken aloud, a moment of attention before the first bite, a reminder that the body is a temple and you don't fill a temple to its roof. The practice is cultural mindfulness around food, not a restriction placed upon it. Older Okinawans drink alcohol in moderation and generally don't smoke, but the practice itself is simpler than any of that. It's the pause. It's the breath you take before the bowl is lifted. It's the awareness that enough is a choice you make at the table, not a craving you fight afterward. In a world obsessed with what to eat, these women simply asked when to stop, and they asked it together, out loud, at every single meal. Let me ask you something. Which of these did your own mother or grandmother do without ever naming it? Tell me below. I read every answer, and what sits on the table matters less than you would think, and more. The sweet potato isn't glamorous. It's a humble root that carried these islands through typhoon seasons when other crops failed and the boats couldn't come. Yet, it has been the chief carbohydrate of the Okinawan diet for generations, not rice and not bread. The traditional plate is built from stir-fried vegetables, tofu, miso soup, and the bitter melon called goya. Meat was reserved for celebrations, taken in small amounts, not the center of the meal and not a daily expectation. The food was grown at home, prepared slowly, and eaten together. What is on the plate changes with the season, and the season changes what the hands know how to grow. Vegetables and legumes are woven into nearly every meal, grown in the garden outside the door, prepared by hands that know the work, and shared with people who know the cook. But the women don't eat for reasons a laboratory would recognize. They eat what grows, what their hands know how to make, and what the circle gathers to share. The food isn't a regimen. It's simply the ground showing up on the plate, season after season. None of these women has ever needed a gym, and that's precisely the point. There's no gym on these islands worth speaking of, because movement was never something you scheduled between meetings. It was something you lived inside of. Almost all Okinawan centenarians grow or once grew a garden. They walk the paths between homes, and they tend the soil that feeds them. They walk to visit family and neighbors because the distance between houses was never designed to be crossed by car. They rise from and lower to the floor dozens of times each day because the traditional household has very little furniture and residents take meals and relax sitting on tatami mats on the floor. Researchers believe that rising from the floor dozens of times a day builds the strength and balance that keep these women steady on their feet without a single piece of equipment, a single membership, or a single app to track it. The activity isn't measured in minutes or heart rate zones. It's constant, low, and woven into the day from childhood to the end. The garden is where the movement happens. The garden is where the food grows. The movement and the plate and the purpose are not separate items on a wellness list you check off before sleeping. They are the same morning, repeated for 90 years. These are not 6 habits, and they are not a list. They are one life, and each part keeps the others alive. The body stays strong because no one ever asked it to stop moving or told it to sit still. But the strangest habit of all is not a food and not a movement. It is a position in the world. What happens to a woman here when she turns 90? In these communities, she isn't diminished. She doesn't shrink into the background of family photos or fade into a room of younger voices waiting for her to finish. She's the keeper of wisdom. She's consulted on matters of marriage, garden timing, and dispute. She is needed to the end, and being needed is its own kind of medicine that no supplement can replicate and no laboratory can manufacture. This isn't sentiment, it's structure. The traditional indigenous religion of these islands was run by women priestesses for generations. Sacred groves still exist where women go to meditate and pray for peace and health. The older woman gains standing as she ages, while elsewhere, age is treated as decline to be hidden and rushed past. The contrast isn't spoken loudly. It's simply lived in every glance that asks her opinion and every child who brings her a bowl first. The bowl placed before her isn't a gesture of charity. It's a gesture of respect, because her presence at the table still matters. And the women who live past 100 do so in a world that still asks them questions, still listens, and still believes they know something the rest of us have not yet learned. Not every scientist agrees these islands hold a secret. Some researchers argue the data behind the longevity zones is weaker than the headlines claim, and the numbers may not be as extraordinary as the stories suggest. But listen to what even the doubters concede. The habits themselves, purpose, connection, moderation, daily movement, line up with everything we broadly understand about living well. So perhaps it was never a secret at all. Just ordinary things done consistently, together, for a lifetime. These women were never chasing long life. They were simply living one, surrounded by people, moving through their gardens, useful to the end. Perhaps that's the real lesson. The ones who live longest are rarely the ones trying hardest to. They are the ones who built a life worth staying in. If this was worth your time, then subscribe and stay a while. There is more of this quiet wisdom to come, and the next one is already being prepared. And if you want to know why Asia's oldest people never lose their minds, watch this video next.